Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, everyone. I hope you're healthy and secure. Let's get right into it and keep going on the Ongi Kuden. The two words, thus and departed, also represent birth and death. So that's an interesting analogy, thus being a word that instantiates a set of conditions, right? In this case, you could say birth, each moment being a moment of instantiation, a manifestation that transmutes to the next moment, to the next moment. This is the fundamental Buddhist scholarship or study of impermanence, emptiness, in that all these different ways of describing things in flux, in process, in movement, in kinetics, nothing being static in and of itself, that everything is constantly a formation into the next form, the next form, the next form, right? This is the process of all phenomena, including our own life, or life writ large. And departed, obviously, would indicate leaving that condition of momentum, extinction, death, birth, death. Each birth is the flip side of which is death, if you want to think of it as a coin. Birth, death, and just flipping a coin constantly, moment to moment. Dengyo, Saicho, states, now we've left the Ongi Kuden. It's been a while. Dengyo states, departed indicates the thus coming that is without coming, and the perfect departing that is without departing. More Buddhist word salad. But I think it's pretty clear, given what I just described, what these words are trying to indicate, mean. That birth, death, and momentary process, birth, death in each moment, in each thought moment, which is, why the thought moment, do you think? 3,000 realms in each thought moment. There's a lot to unpack there. That being that the potential of each of the 10 worlds or 10 realms within itself, interpenetrating one another, each with its 10 factors, Nyose in, Nyose en, Nyose kan, Nyose ho, Nyose hom, right? Instantiating through the skandhas, through the teachings, through the physical realm and the realm of associations, human beings, where minds emerge. This thought moment contains every single possibility to be manifested. From what? From potential. So, since we're talking, using words to describe each of these moments, arising and decaying and extinction, or departing, arising and departing, arising and departing. And we can use the words birth, death to indicate that. And throughout Buddhism, we use that combination of words, because even beings of lower capacity, lower experience, lower understanding, understand the visceral nature of birth and death, but to then shift that understanding to understanding that this is occurring in each thought moment, and in its birth has 3,000 potential, 30,000, 300,000 potential opportunities. The multipliers just get incredible. And in that very instant, disappear. It's like a firework. Only then to carry a certain amount of momentum into the next moment, right? Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. Then for Saicho or Dengyo to say, departed indicates the thus coming that is without coming, and the perfect departing that is without departing. He's indicating that even though everything happens momentarily, moment to moment, in our perceptive mind, there's a continuity to the kinetics, the momentum of each of those arising and departing moments that offers a continuum, an experience of a continuum. That's our mind's, samsaric mind's perception of a lifetime, right? Even though intellectually we understand that the lifetime of the universe has hardly started, that by all calculations, 14 billion years into it, though it's important to you and I in our development on Earth, etc., the calculation of how long this process is going to continue, we don't know. We can't know. It's undefinable. It's unreachable. Even if you talk about the cyclic cosmology, right? The conformal cyclical cosmology, where everything then conforms to having no mass, therefore no time, and explodes again into a vast potential of energies, just cycling. We don't know when that will be. It's uncalculable at present. Okay? So for him to say, describe the words thus and departed, this is Dengyo talking about, even though we intellectually understand moment, 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 to our samsaric mind, it would appear as, it would be experienced as a continuum. Remember my talk about early geometry in school, how a line is just a collection of points, and points are just locations. So the line is something perceived, but it does not, there is no line in the universe. There is only the loci of points, which in themselves are no thing. They're just a location in space-time. So it's interesting. This dialogue is really saying that same kind of thing, albeit in an older linguistic sense. The word thus also has the meaning of all dharmas are the mind. And the word departed has the meaning of the mind is all dharmas. So once again, what we're circling around now is this idea that this entire samsaric experience, this entire search for Buddha-ness and all the consciousnesses, all of it, all of what is taught in Buddhism, doesn't occur anywhere else in nature but the emergent mind of sentient beings. Though the process is also happening in every blade of grass, sky, atom, molecule, planet, the consciousness of it is only available to sentient, thinking beings. This is our great, precious privilege of this lifetime. Right? All dharmas are the mind corresponds to the unchanging suchness expounded in the trace teachings. So now we're referring this to the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, the trace and the origin. The trace being our dissection of this very existence, being the nature of all potential in manifesting moment to moment to moment. And in the origin teaching, the mind is all dharmas corresponds to the suchness that accords with the conditions expounded in the origins teachings, which tells us that this is nothing new, that what we're experiencing not only is the suchness, but that the suchness has been around and is the fundamental of all phenomena, which we are also a part of, and from this body, this apparatus, emerge a mind that can be conscious of it. Do you see? There's two different ways of looking at the same thing. Thus, the Dharma realm being contained within the one mind has the meaning of thus, and the mind opening to becoming the Dharma realm has the meaning of departed. That makes sense too. But do you see how we're dissecting the words here? And not for, how shall I say it, just our entertainment or our cleverness. But, as I said in the last video, it's a way of looking at the words and pausing and understanding that ultimately in the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, in the Daimoku, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, we are inculcating all of these various teachings, all of these various aha moments, these insights into the nature of all potential and the perception of that potential, and the perception of that potential being the same exact energy that fundamentally spawned all of these Dharma realms. So that all 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, like a funnel, all of these things perceived in a single thought moment, that perception, that Buddha perception of that drama actually was the same energy that spawned it in the first place. So it's very circular. People talk about the Lotus Sutra and Buddhist teachings from it and prior to it as circular. That makes sense? To experience something prerequisites the something to experience. Another simple way to say it. Totally logical. This has the same meaning as the oral transmission concerning the triple truth and the threefold contemplation. So now this is referring back to Tendai's elucidations on contemplation and exactly what I just said, really. The transmission concerning the triple truth, we're back to one body being three and three bodies being one. It's just a matter of the lens you're looking through, right? Are you looking samsarically at Buddhist teachings to intellectually understand it? Or are you actually experiencing and therefore understanding all of the various teachings, the dharmas, if you will? This is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Both the teaching and the experience. In another sense, here we go again, thus indicates true, or in other words, obvious fact, and departed indicates aspect. So here's the fact, and since everything arises and decays and dissolves, that's an aspect of this fact. of what has arisen. True indicates the mind ruler. In other words, again, Buddhism is about the mind and attitude and intent, right? So the mind ruler, being the ruler of a kingdom, the ruler of our experience of samsara, and aspect, the mental function of understanding, dissecting, and perceiving the nature of it. Again, the Dharma, quote unquote, corresponds to departed, because once you understand what departs is the illusions, and true aspect, quote unquote, to thus. The entirety of this sutra from beginning to end is contained in the phrase, quote, the true aspect of the Dharmas, end quote. The commentary states, quote, what is the essence of this sutra? It is the true aspect of the Dharmas, end quote, or of all phenomena. Now proceeding a step further, in terms of Nichiren's practice, thus, nyo indicates practice that accords nyo with the sutra's teaching, end quote, nyo setsu shugyo. When Shakyamuni pronounced the essential transfer of the 5 characters, the events of this transfer began with the jeweled stupa, right? We talk about the treasure tower chapter. His voice penetrating beneath the earth, he assured that there would be someone to propagate the sutra in both near and distant times, declaring his entrustment of the sutra to both his original disciples and to those whom he had taught in his provisional capacity. Thus, the Jeweled Stupa chapter serves as a hidden introduction to the original teaching. With the 2 Buddhas sitting side by side and the emanation Buddhas assembled, Shakyamuni expounded and revealed the excellent good medicine that is the Sutra of the Lotus Blossom of the Wonderful Dharma. Manifesting 10 kinds of supernatural powers, he summed it up in 4 phrases and entrusted it to the Bodhisattva superior conduct. That which was transferred is the title of the wonderful Dharma, Myoho Renge Kyo. One should ponder the fact that the essential transfer occurred inside and the general transfer outside the jeweled stupa. In this way, the substance of the transfer was revealed in the emerging from the earth and fathoming the lifespan chapters, and the transfer itself concluded in the supernatural powers and entrustment chapters. As for these 5 characters, Myoho Renge Kyo, in the final Dharma age, when the pure law becomes obscured and lost, Bodhisattva superior conduct will make his advent in the world and, abridging 4 of the 5 practices, attain Buddhahood by the single practice of accepting and holding the sutra. This we see in the sutra text. It is stated in the Supernatural Powers chapter in the words, quote, It is stated in the Supernatural Powers chapter in the words, quote, after my nirvana, one should accept and hold this sutra. Concerning this person's attainment of the way, it is assured, and there can be no doubt, end quote. This passage is perfectly clear and expresses the Buddhist transfer of merit. The mind ground of one who accepts and holds this sutra is thus, in that it accords with the sutra's teaching, end quote. In the thus of this mind ground, because one accepts, holds the 5 characters, Myoho Renge Kyo, and chants Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, one immediately departs from all ignorance and defilement and manifests the ultimate fruit of wondrous enlightenment. Thus the word departed is used to conclude the sutra, and is accordingly preceded by the words, quote, accepting and holding the Buddha's words, end quote. Even the demon king of the defilements and evil insight, when illuminated by the light of all dharmas, being the true aspect, perceives that he pervades the dharma realm in a single thought moment. Then he in turn salutes the Buddha, who is one's own mind. Hence the phrase, quote, "they bowed and departed," end quote. One should ponder the interpretation that states, quote, "the 3,000 realms each interpenetrate and yet remain as they are," end quote. Keep this secret. This is deep stuff. It is a transmission that has been passed down only from one person to another. Do not divulge it. It has been handed down that the ultimate meaning of this word departed is the departure of, quote, "not departing and yet departing," end quote. So he went back to Dengyo's interpretation and teaching. So what does all that mean? These are all colorful words trying to describe, and I'll use some of the words so you can see how they're used. Shakyamuni attained his enlightenment, Buddha. He attained his Buddha-ness. He coursed in this world as a bodhisattva with this enlightened mind of Buddha-ness and influenced and taught and supported as many people as he could encounter to do as he had done. Over the years, he dissected the nature, the true nature of everything, all phenomena. And in the Lotus Sutra, he dissected and demonstrated the method by which one could achieve his own enlightenment, the way he did it, and how it functions in samsara. So we're left with this ultimate tool. And this ultimate tool, the transmission that he's talking about there, is that when we chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, we are invoking that very same Buddha-ness. That the exact enlightenment that Shakyamuni, Siddhartha Gautama, achieved in his life is the same enlightenment, the same clear in the mind is Buddha. The Buddha is the mind. The mind is Buddha, albeit perceived. If you don't perceive the ultimate truth of all phenomena with your mind, then your mind is locked. It's locked into samsaric ownerism. Make sense? When we chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, we unlock the very same mind to the ultimate truth, that everything is in flux, nothing is permanent. Therefore, there is nothing to own, there is nothing to possess, other than the experience of this great drama. Kind of play on the word dharma there. Drama, dharma. Drama, dharma. Dharma, drama. I mean, it's a word device, but you could use it to remind yourself that when your emotions start to creep in, that when you start having attitude that's not constructive, that's getting in your way, you're slipping out of Buddha-ness. You're getting locked into ownership, possession, attachment. That's the drama. With the very same thoughts, you could understand that this is just an aspect of the Dharma. As it is, as it works, as it arises, decays, and dissolves. This is the process of all things. And that's amazing to participate in while observing it without attachment. There's a subjective self and there's an objective self. You know this even without Buddhism. How many times have you sat around either in discussion or by yourself in your own thoughts and observed your own behavior. In the moment, you are subjective, responding and reacting to everything that happens in and around you. But distanced from that actual moment or those moments, you can objectively see your patterns of behavior. Maybe not all of them, but certainly some of them. And you can critique, criticize, shape. So Buddha-ness, your Buddhahood, allows you a super clear objectivism so that you can immerse yourself in samsara without fear. Because you're unattached. And what happens to all of that? Attachment and possession, it changes, it folds over to something else. A type of compassion that you've never known before. A type of compassion that says, oh, all of this drama is simply from ignorance. It's simply from not feeling secure in the knowledge that everything is as it should be. That everything is simply in process. And that by removing our causality of enforcement of the drama, we can experience everything clearly with amazement, love, and joy as watching a child play with its toys while we're in it. And by our nature of release, we can calm and influence others. And then when they ask us, how do you do that? You can teach them about Myoho Renge-kyo. And so the dharma or the drama of samsara begins to subside, and the dharma of its amazing nature starts to take over. This is the idea of spreading Buddhism to others, spreading peace with love and compassion. You need to see life like this. It becomes so amazing. That's how you get rid of your suffering, your stress, your anxiety. Makes total sense, doesn't it? All right. Closing words. There has been a lot of controversy, verbally and written, about the Ongi Kuden. There have been, and you can tell now that we've read every word, there is not a single word in the Ongi Kuden, at least through this note taker, this monk, in his quotations of the Ongi Kuden, anything that deifies Nichiren. There's nothing in here that says Nichiren is the original Buddha who taught Shakyamuni. That language may be poetic, but it's incredibly confusing. And there are groups and sects that have somehow taken that perversion and turned it into a fact. But there was no words to that effect. In fact, there were words completely opposite to that effect, not the status of Nichiren, but that the transmission of Buddha's enlightenment is for all of us, each and every one of us. And if you wanted to make that convoluted, you could say that because everything, every phenomena has originally inherent in it Buddha, or the energy of formations, the energy of Buddha-ness, which is, as you heard very clearly, is the mind. This sentient existence that you and I are in is the only place Buddha can happen. And that when we chant Namo Myoho Renge-kyo, we are transmitting that perception into our mind. That inherent nature comes to the fore. becomes our true lens of experience. Everyone. Nichiren is incredibly important to you and I in this era, because in this era we are in a unique position of a plethora of influences and inputs and distractions. And for us to practice solipsistically in a building removed with one another, that methodology of awakening the mind is long, arduous, and arguably in these days never going to be successful. You'll never attain it. You may attain some calm, some insights, but Buddhahood is going to be very elusive and difficult to experience. However, in the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni himself explains how he did it and that we can do the exact same thing and instantiate it, because it's already there as potential. We just need to instantiate it in the mind. And I'm absolutely certain Nichiren experienced this. But make no mistake, Nichiren, not unlike Shakyamuni, was a bodhisattva coursing as a human being on this earth with the full understanding of what Buddha-ness is like. He was forced to get it by his exiles and the attempt to behead him and events that made it obvious that his samsaric attachments were still, even though intellectually he knew, he wasn't experiencing it until after his exiles and he was on his own, and it finally gelled in his mind. And you can see that if you study the Gosho. His interpretation of the Lotus Sutra and what it is to experience Buddhahood really came to the fore after his exiles. When he went back to Minobu, he did so to course in this knowledge as a bodhisattva with a full understanding of instantiating Buddhahood. That is where he composed himself and made the ultimate universal mandala to awaken our inner mental state of Gohonzon, to perceive in the moment of the 3,000 realms in each single moment the Buddhahood, the consciousness of all of the realms, without being sucked into them, being attached to them, being influenced by them, but just observing their true nature. So I'm sure that he experienced that, just as Shakyamuni did, and just as you and I can. This is the beauty of Shakyamuni's teaching. This is the value of the Lotus Sutra. And this is said over and over again abundantly in everything we read, really. So certainly it's representative of Nichiren's thought. It's a little, what shall I say, obsessive about the words and their references. It's really, as I've said before, like taking notes at lectures in college, and you're trying to grasp every nuance that the professor tells you, and then you look back at your notes and they're kind of a compression of time, right? Because you don't write down every word the professor says, but you're trying to capture his thoughts, capture the meaning. And the Anko Kikigaki did so. And this document, which I don't know what to call, which we don't know the author of, which references Saicho and Wen Chu Chi and certainly a lot of the Ongi Kuden, the words of, or the writings of, purportedly Byakuren Ajari Nikko with 2 Ks, shonen. But this is very obviously not the writings of Nico with two Ks. Although a lot of his writings purportedly are in it, I think for all that politic and justification and so forth, it's interesting as a person interested in history and interested in movements and differences of opinion. That can be interesting. But as pertains to our practice, what you and I can glean from it is that this is another document that works diligently to absorb, understand Nichiren's teachings and Shakyamuni's teachings and Dengyo's teachings and Jendai's teachings and Miao Lo and so forth on this Lotus Sutra, and how to gain conviction, solidify our resolve to enlighten our minds. And we can see the effort. And on that, this is just another tool. We are doing what Shakyamuni told us to do. Study broadly. Except there's one thing that I think pollutes the waters, and it makes me sad, because it sends in when this document begins. Now, I'll remind you, this is the translation. It's English, but it's a translation of the Onko Kikigaki. It starts with excerpts from, quote, lectures heard and recorded, end quote. And this is an actual document. Says there's a number, a Taisho number. I have here recorded the teacher's lectures given successively from the 19th day of the 3rd month of the 3rd year of Koan, 1280, which was 2 years before Nichiren would pass away, through the 28th day of the 5th month of the 3rd year of the same era, recorded by Nico, with 1K. So it's very obvious who the author is, when he wrote it, and what it's about. Now, both of these documents turn up much after Nichiren's death. But again, setting that aside, there's a very clear statement of who the author is and what he's authoring. When we begin, and so everything, the voice of this document is about, not unlike a sutra, it's basically saying, thus I heard, right? Thus have I heard. He starts out, the Lotus Sutra is the essential dharma that enables all living beings to attain the Buddha way. This being the case, the great enlightened world-honored one waited for the proper season to expound it, explaining that he had not done so earlier because the time to preach it had not yet arrived. To illustrate, this was like the cuckoo passing the spring before singing. And now is this time to spread the 7 characters of Namu Myoho Renge Kyo in the final age. This is straight Nichiren. So it's not difficult to see this document and give it authenticity, because it rings so true of everything that we've studied about Nichiren, certainly so far. And then we get to I want to read the beginning of the Ongi Kuden. Sorry. Why can't I do this easily? Really? Come on now. Is it before it? Come on, Sylvain. You're annoying me. Ongi Kuden. Okay. Now this says, excerpts from the oral transmission of the sacred meanings, Ongi Kuden. So we know right away, this isn't the Ongi Kuden. These are notes, excerpts from the oral teachings of the sacred meanings, Ongi Kuden. So we know these aren't the words of Nico, not this document. I'll do more research and see if there's an actual translation of what they call the Ongi Kuden, which we've been led to believe, certainly by Burton Watson and his ilk. So I'll have to do more research on that. But this is what's presented to me in this scholarly dissertation, right? And it starts with Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, first words. No author given or ascribed, no time period. Just here it is, my notes. The Ongi Kuden states, Namu derives from Sanskrit. Here in Japan it's called Kimyo, to devote one's life. The objects of this devotion, and here's the big, this is really, this is not a little mistake. The objects of this devotion are the person and the Dharma. Is that the fault of the translation? Is that the fault of the monk who's studying, who doesn't understand? Is this an inculcated fault of ego from the get-go from the Fuji school? Is this what broke up the 6 monks into 5 and then 1? This is a very concerning moment for me. Devotion to the person means devoting one's life to Shakyamuni Buddha. We don't devote our lives to Shakyamuni Buddha. We devote our lives to his teaching. We devote our lives to the Dharma of Buddha-ness in our minds, but not to the person of Shakyamuni. I need more words here. I need to know, what the heck are you saying? Because this does not ring true at all. How many times? And the reason I say that is because the very words he's using is what Nichiren would call the big dividing line, the big problem with latter-day Buddhism, is that people follow the person and not the law. Never follow the person and not the law. Shakyamuni said the same thing. Don't follow me. Don't follow me, Shakyamuni. Study for yourselves, get your own insights, and dedicate yourself to accomplishing enlightenment, Buddha-ness. Shakyamuni said this, and Nichiren followed suit. Many scholars and bodhisattvas have said the same thing. So how does this interpretation occur? From where does this come? Devotion to the Dharma means devoting oneself to the Lotus Sutra. Okay. That works. It's not supremely accurate, but it works. Moreover, devotion means to return to the principle of true suchness that is unchanging, Fuhen Shinyo Nori, which is set forth in the trace teachings Shakyamuni, while life, Myo, means to conform to the wisdom of the true suchness that accords with conditions, which is revealed in the original origin teachings, Honmon. The devotion of one's life is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. The commentary states, according with conditions and yet unchanging, quiescence and illumination in a single mind. Moreover, devotion indicates our body and life, our mind. The non-duality of body and mind is called the single ultimate. A commentary reads, it causes them to return to the single ultimate. Therefore, it is called the Buddha vehicle. At very least, it's very problematic. This first paragraph, it points to something that's patently wrong. And so that, in short, is my entire problem, and I think the entire problem with the Ongi Kuden. Because it turns up later, as you'll recall from earlier videos, it turns up later in interpretations of person, body, this idea that this is what we're devoted to. This is the problem. This implies a certain reverence for samsara. We understand that samsara is the place of realization, but what we're revering is the revelations and the illumination, not the physical samsaric world. That's an attachment. So it's very problematic. But I have to say, most of it after that, especially where he quotes the Ongi Kuden, seem to be, as much word salad as there is, track with what we know of Nichiren's doctrine and the Lotus Sutra. So, does that answer any questions? Does that help illuminate the dark chasm of the Ongi Kuden? I think it does. It does for me. I'm still not satisfied that the translation is quite accurate, that it may just take a few more little adjectives, verbs, nouns to construct that same sentence in a way that conveys something more consonant with Nichiren's teachings and all the other scholars' teachings. As is, it's certainly problematic. Worse than that, it's contradictory to Buddhism. And that cannot stand. So something's wrong there. Where that comes from, I certainly don't know. And I guess that's enough blah, blah, blah on the Ongi Kuden. I hope you've enjoyed this series, reading both the Anko Kigigaki and the Ongi Kuden, not the Ongi Kuden. I'm titling it that because that's how it's presented to me. But it's annoying to me that this is somebody writing on the Ongi Kuden and other scholarship. So I really would like to know who wrote this. Not the translator, although that might be helpful. But what are the origins of this document? Is this the entire document? Maybe there's more to it, although it seemed fairly complete. And bottom line is, if you gleaned any concepts out of this, or my stumbling through alliteration on the concepts in these documents, if in some way even one insight occurred for you to help build on your conviction, your confidence in your practice, then that's wonderful. That's why we're here. The bottom line is, have utmost determination and conviction, confidence in your daimoku, in your practice. Your life has to grow. Your mind, your consciousness of your environs, your life, your filters will start to, your veils will start to disappear, and the world will become a clearer and clearer experience for you to enjoy and be wondered by, amazed by, and ease your burden of attachment. More and more, you'll feel greater function, aliveness in this life without the oppressive weight of all these attachments and dramas. Move from the drama to the Dharma. Have fun, enjoy. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to my patrons who do so much to support this channel. All of you are amazing human beings. And chanting, practicing Lotus Sutra Buddhism, my goodness, how laudable are you? I hope in my own meager way, I'm helping to support you accomplish that. In the same way you support me by liking, subscribing, sharing. downloading the audio podcasts, using the threefoldlotus.com website, getting documents out of there. Let me know how you're doing. A lot of you are, and you know who you are. Thank you. Personally, thank you. We all thank you. And I will see you in the next one. Not sure what I'm going to talk about next, but I think there's still some stuff in here I haven't read, so we'll share that too. And I need to start on some other translations of Nichiren's Gosho from organizations started by Nichiren Shu and other entities who have some different Goshos and some of the same Goshos that they've translated, albeit through their bias. And let's see, maybe we can find some other insights through those. All right. Thanks again. I'll let you go. Take care of your health. Be kind. Bye for now.